We have already made a procurement and we have stocked in food. Because of the scarcity of food, government must come in to ensure that the areas that are affected are provided with emergency food supply.
This sounds reassuring, but the United Nations is warning that nearly 35 million Nigerians may face hunger this year.
35 million. That's an entire population of Ghana. Imagine a whole nation going without food.
And even more than the population of Cameroon. Now, Nigeria's government insists that this projection will not become a reality.
And that they have a decisive action plan to avert the crisis. Yet many Nigerians remain deeply skeptical.
I can't just wait for the government of Tinubu to help me out.
God will feed you. Will not keep you hungry.
But the bigger question remains, how is Nigeria, a nation with highest or largest arable land, edging towards a hunger crisis?
Nigeria, just like many other parts of the country, are faced by natural disasters. And you have seen how flood in Nigeria got us down in 2025 and has caused so much this.
But as we all know, hunger has no patience and understanding, right? So are there concrete steps in place to avert this looming catastrophe?
That's an urgent question we want to discuss today.
Hello, good day to you.
Yeah, good day. It's always a great pleasure to be under the Baobab. My name is George Okachi.
And it's also a pleasure. My name is Mimi Mefo-Newu. Welcome to Under the Baobab, where we ask the hardest questions, provide solutions, and also make complex issues personal.
Yes, and we do so every Friday of the week. We bring you honest conversations with leaders shaping Africa's future. And most amazing thing about being under the Baobab is that everyone can be part of our community, and you can do so by subscribing and joining the conversation happening right here.
And today we are back to Nigeria, a country faced with one of 2026 emerging global crisis that is not receiving enough attention on the media, George, which is hunger crisis.
Indeed, Mimi, and just to bring our listeners and our viewers up to speed, the United Nations warns that nearly 35 million people in Africa's most populous nation are at risk of hunger this year. That includes 3 million children who are set to face severe malnutrition.
So when we hear these numbers, they just look like they are random numbers, just falling from space. But it's certainly going to affect the day-to-day lives of Nigerians. When we hear these numbers, we are thinking of children in remote localities, young people in Nigeria that do not have access to job opportunities. And the UN actually says that this is due to the collapse of global aid budget by major donor countries. People are now busy with their own personal problems or internal problems. And so Nigeria's humanitarian needs have simply outgrown the foreign-led model that we've been seeing in the past. But these are not just statistics, like I said. These are things that are affecting Nigerians on a daily basis, ordinary Nigerians. Yeah,
you spoke about, the shrinking donor funding and it clings, Make America Great is really affecting.
Yeah.
It has a lot of ripple effects to the continent.
Right.
And that's why we looked for Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Nigeria's Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction.
So we recently spoke to our correspondents as well to really understand how Nigerians themselves, how are they feeling with these projections? Are they already been affected? There's always a saying that a hungry man is an angry man, know.
Yeah, especially in the northern parts of the country. We've had people, I've spoken to our correspondents who are telling us that there are some families whose parents have had to go without a meal just to ensure that the kids can, have something to bite.
A country like Nigeria, that before there was this rice type that they would call it dirty rice. So it was meant to feed like maybe the livestock and not human beings eating them. But at some point, they are now eating or feeding from this rice that was considered like the rejected.
I mean, maybe when push comes to shove, you just have to...
that's how bad things have become in Nigeria. But with our guests, we were trying to understand what is the government's response to this pending situation?
Good question.
We know it's been described as a catastrophe.
Yeah.
How is the government responding to this? What are the programs that are in place to kind of stop this from becoming a national crisis, because when there's hunger, there's insecurity. When there's hunger, things are not going well in the country. And we also wanted to know from the minister how his take on these projections, by the United Nations. What is the country doing, particularly his ministry, to address this problem? Let's hear what he told us.
Nigeria is good at being projected. During the COVID-19, there was projection of extensive mortality in Nigeria, but when we organized ourselves, we got things addressed. Because of the scarcity of food, government must come in to ensure that the areas that are affected, such as the Northeast and Northwest, are provided with emergency food supply, most especially that the World Food Programme has suspended a major component of the 10 of its activity, that is the emergency food transfer to poor people in Nigeria. And we have already made procurement and we have stocked in food. I will be in Sokoto. The minister will be in Borno to flag up food distributions. And also, not only this, there's also medication for the management of the severe acute malnutrition in the component we are going to distribute to those centers that are taking care of the malnourished children in Nigeria.
Who takes ultimate responsibility for addressing acute malnutrition and food insecurity in Nigeria today?
You see, in Nigeria, we have a committee for food security. So the food security is not only, it's a multi-stakeholder involvement and engagement, because security are there, Minister of Agriculture are there, Minister of Finance is also there, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning is also there. Even the state governors are also part of it, so that we can have joint operation.
So, Mr. Minister, Nigeria is an agrarian country, yet food assistance still runs into tens of millions of dollars. Why does Nigeria continue to appeal for food aid abroad instead of producing enough food domestically?
You see, we have national agricultural policy being spearheaded by Federal Ministry of Agriculture. But as you know, and I mentioned earlier, is Nigeria, just like many other parts of the country, are faced by natural disasters. And you have seen how flood in Nigeria got us down in 2025 and has caused so much this thing. While Nigeria is using its food reserve to reach out to this, definitely in terms of being a multi-populous country and with so much poverty, what we have on the ground may not likely be able to go around. So, and that nothing support us from asking for assistance and working together to develop a durable solution. And while we are also giving our own, we are also soliciting, as mentioned earlier, we are looking inward for domestic fund mobilization and blocking leakages so that we can address the issue. And then the other issue is also our Ministry of Environment and many other ministries. They are doing their own work to ensure that they have reduced the impact of flooding through addressing environmental concern.
Well, the minister's assurances sound confident, but is this matching the reality on the ground? That is the question we've been asking, especially most critically, high-risk areas facing catastrophic or famine-like conditions are still concentrated in the north states, which are like Borno, Adamawa, and Sokoto.
Right. Yeah. So the minister also believes that Nigeria can manage this looming crisis. COVID-19 came, and we saw that even some African countries manage COVID-19 better than some parts of Europe.
Yeah, so they're saying like Nigeria would, face a lot of fatalities, but he's saying that was not the reality.
Yes, but COVID-19 is different. You can't isolate hunger. You can't postpone eating. You can't say, I will eat tomorrow or next week or next month. People eat every minute, every day. And it becomes a problem. This is when I'm listening to the minister, it just seems like these statistics are coming like a warning sign and also a surprise, because these are ministers that are in place to solve some of these problems even before they happen. Should the warnings even come from the UN when they are the ones running the country, governing the people?
Yeah, at this juncture, maybe I would play a devil's advocate, maybe. And we've heard him say, there are some reasons as to why Nigeria is finding itself in this particular uncomfortable condition. And he's mentioned, natural disasters and the conditions in the northern parts of the country, which we all know that has faced, a lot of insistent insecurity. and that could be contributing to, the pressure of, the need of, feeding a lot of people, the IDPs who've been displaced out of, different areas.
Yeah, of course, natural disasters, they don't spare any country. Like in Cameroon, we've been having floods in major cities like Douala every year.
That's true. That's
Sometimes
given.
you question, are the authorities not aware that these floods happen? What are they doing to prevent it? But Nigerians are also not interested in these floods that are happening. They want to know what is being done by the government to some sort of, help them, assist them. The poverty, the floods will be there, but hunger is also going to be there. What is the government doing to help them come out of this situation? Because they are the ones in charge of the country. So I don't know if you wanted to say something.
No, I didn't want to say that, but
we want the
he's
minister
better
to
placed to say
answer.
something.
Yes. So what are the steps on the way, and how are they dealing with these floods amidst hunger? Let the minister tell us.
One of our flagship program in the ministry is government enterprises and empowerment programs, where we have one component that we call farmer money. We have already commenced, and we have reached a peak level of mobilizing about 21,000 Nigerians who are farmers that will be given a soft loan that is collateral free and also interest free, which they will pay back over 2 years. And this is all in an effort to ensure that we boost their, most especially if you consider the flooding that we had last year. So we are paying much attention to irrigation farming, most especially in the dry season.
So let's talk about floods, fire, and other natural disasters that occur in Nigeria almost every year. Many affected communities are complaining that government responses are often very slow and sometimes inadequate. Why is this the case? And how do you respond to these criticisms from some Nigerians?
I'm not saying that our response is perfect, but we must also, in the whole world, there are some areas that are described to be hard-rich areas. And even in Nigeria, it's not excluded to having a lot of hard-rich areas. And we are putting in strategies to ensure that we have a strong, locally based emergency response preparedness. And also, sometimes the security issues, and that's why I said we are working in hand-to-hand with the security outfits in Nigeria to ensure that we improve access to those areas that are being debated by insecurity. So these are all environmental and other compounding factors that may delay a response. Right now, we are also looking at our emergency response with a view to reposition the National Emergency Management Agency to make it more proactive and more responsive, so that we will now work on the early warning sign rather than waiting for the disaster to occur before making prompt action.
George, earlier I said that when you're hungry, you get angry, and a hungry man is an angry man. Yes. And I'm just curious, are Nigerians happy about this, or are they angry about this?
Would you be happy if you were hungry?
I won't be, but I want to also hear from them what they think about it.
Yes, and that's the beauty of Under the Baobab. We had to, speak to our people, the community that, is following this conversation. And our correspondents, Ben Shemang and Abiodun Jamiu, spoke to the people already feeling the impact. And here is what they told us.
As you can see now, I'm hawking granules, because I can't meet up to the standard I need. And as a youth I am, I can't just wait for the government of Tinubu to help me out. As a youth that I am, I'm still strong and buoyant. I can still work on my own to earn what I want. Because if I should be waiting for the government of Tinubu to do something, President Tinubu to do something, I don't think I will meet up.
We are complaining about money. There is no money. There is no money. See business, I break it down since morning. No customer, but I'm trying my best on this one. And I believe at the end of the day, God will do something for me. He will not let me go home empty. Coming to a full matter, know how that God will not feed you, but God will feed you. He will not keep you hungry. But the way this country is going, nowadays, face the change, then they provoke.
If you see now, like civil servants, they have been coming to my business here, complaining that their salary has not been paid on time. And some people will be there, they see billions of money, will go to the ministry, and they'll just occupy, or one person will have billions of money. Yes, sir. Money they are supposed to bring, they use to, people are suffering. Look at the way people are suffering in this country now. Somebody will give billions of money. It's very bad, sir.
Mimi, I mean, you can't help but to sympathize. But what I like is that there are some voices of, hope from Nigerians. They are saying they don't want to entirely depend on the government, that they will do whatever they have to do on their side. And there are some who are also, depending on, God's intervention and believing that God will not, the government may keep them hungry, but God will not keep them hungry.
Yeah, but when you hear that, I don't see hopefulness in those statements. I just see a people that feel the people feeling like they're abandoned. Because if they had a government, an active government, a government that looks into their challenges, they would not feel like they should be on their own. They should be fending for themselves. They should have some sort of support. It's a country of so many millions of people. Nigeria is the largest in terms of population, on the continent. But we don't expect the government to look after each and every person. But we expect the people to be hopeful and, we expect the people to some sort of, if they are into business, they should be able to have they should be able to see, to reap what they are sowing, to be able to, they should be comfortable wherever they are. So that's the problem that I see with what I hear from Nigerians.
Yeah, that's very true. But also, Mimi, critically looking at, the entire crisis, because we're talking about 35 million people, staring at hunger. And that is projected to be somewhere around June or August 2026.
Or maybe now already.
Yeah. Some already feeling it. And one of the key reasons as to why we are having this particular, imminent crisis is because of insecurity in the northern region.
But I would say it's the other way around, George. When there's hunger, there's insecurity.
Yeah, that's true. But of course, it exacerbates, the hunger crisis. And it even makes it so difficult for the government now to make any intervention to help the situation.
You're right. In fact, nearly 4 million people are internally displaced in Nigeria as we speak. That was by the end of last year, 2025, according to Internal Displacement Monitoring Center. And projections already showed millions who face food insecurity this year.
Yes, and also one thing we need to mention is that hundreds of thousands of Nigerians are refugees in neighboring countries,
like Cameroon,
according to the UNHCR, and all these still fall under the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Reduction.
This same ministry.
Yeah, the same ministry.
That has been involved in corruption allegations.
In
2024.
Happy that you bring up that,
Right. So the President Bola Tinubu, suspended the former minister minister in the docket, Dr. Betta Edu, over the allegations of fraud that were leveled against him. And these are some of the things that, are involved in the same ministry that we also got to talk about.
Yes. One thing that is someone can put up with is that, of course, the government may be struggling to make interventions to avert the hunger crisis. But the anger that there is money and someone is embezzling the money that is supposed to help you, that can be very disappointing.
Yeah, and also kind of selfish, in a country where people are looking for food to eat, someone wants to embezzle the money and keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
But how is the government dealing with this, and how is these allegations of embezzlement and fraud, corruption affecting the humanitarian crisis in Nigeria, and how the ministry is dealing with some of these problems, IDPs, the pressure and the hunger? Let us hear what the minister told us.
IDP camps is not a permanent destination. It's supposed to be a transit point, so that from there you can be resettled, reintegrated to your own society or in the host community. And we continue to develop resettlement cities that we are doing, and those IDPs are being, for those who cannot go back to their own area of origin, we are living them. We are providing not a camp but a city that is fully equipped with the hospital facility, with market, with security, with schools, so that no child is left behind in terms of exposure of our education as a career in the country.
Can you give us exact figures, Mr. Minister? How many Nigerians exactly have directly benefited from your ministry's intervention so far?
Well, there are a lot of Nigerians that have gotten, and that's why I said earlier I needed to have asked the number of people. You know, I told you earlier before we discussed that some may require figure, and I should have asked all those relevant organizations, most officially the National Commission for Internally Displaced Refugee, Internally Displaced and Migrant, to give me all the details of those who have benefited.
Now, some of your predecessors were being investigated by the Economic Financial Crimes in Nigeria for embezzlement and, some mismanagement. To what extent did these scandals damage public trust and slow humanitarian work within your ministry?
Definitely, that has caused a lot of image problems, and we cannot deny that fact. I tell it clear that our major challenge now as a ministry is to restore the confidence of people locally, nationally, and also international community to trust us, that we can be trusted in terms of humanitarian responses. We have come up with a lot of strategy to ensure that we restore confidence to Nigerians, and also to ensure that whatever we are going to do is accountable and transparent and can be traceable.
So what specific safeguards have you put in place to ensure transparency, accountability, and to prevent a repeat of past abuses in humanitarian fundings?
We made, as a ministry, make and secure the approval of the Federal Executive Council that henceforth any financial transaction must be done through an agreed modality that each and every beneficiary must have national identification number and also the VBN, the bank verification number, so that anybody that has received something, it can easily be tracked. Prior to now, that is not the case. And therefore, when you are asked, people will receive, but because there is no evidence that they have received it, it becomes a doubtful issue. But now we have, all payments are done through the CBN to our local banks in the country. And that's why even in our National Social Register, when we came, we have about nearly 18.9 million Nigerians in our National Social Register, which is the biggest in Africa and also either third or so in the world. But unfortunately, as at the time we came in, it lacks digital identity. And so we have to work with the NIMC, National Information Management Commission, so that it can make it more robust, more accountable, and more dependable. In the last few months, we have seen a lot of involvement. We are now being trusted, most especially with the international community, and they are coming for us to partner and work with us.
Mimi, you wanted numbers from Dr. Yusuf.
Of course.
You expected him to have the numbers at the top of his head.
Yes, I wanted to. If he's a minister, he should have them. Even numbers
Mimi,
for 2026, he should have them.
He's not an AI tool. Come on.
But he's the minister. Anyway, how do we lighten the mood under the Baobab?
Of course, when the conversation gets heated, we normally retreat to the shades of, the Baobab tree, and we get to know the minister away from, his official duties. Who is Dr. Yusuf?
In one word, how would you describe Nigeria's humanitarian situation today?
It's evolving.
Okay. So what keeps you awake at night as a minister?
The situation of internally displaced persons in Nigeria.
Interesting. What do you watch when you want to unwind, on YouTube or elsewhere?
Wrestling, if it's watching, apart from news, I hardly watch any program apart from wrestling.
So what is the best advice you've ever received in public service?
Well, I think it's what I've gotten from my father. Do your best. Don't expect to be commended.
Which leader outside Nigeria do you genuinely admire?
Well, let me say that I was in Turkey and I have seen their emergency response preparedness. So I admire the president of Turkey.
Oh, Erdogan of Turkey. So where in Nigeria do you go to unwind when the pressure becomes overwhelming for you?
Well, it's always my farm.
So which is harder to deal with, angry citizens or budget ceilings?
Well, to me, the angry citizens, you cannot blame them. You only try to do the best you can to assist and to take care of their demands.
Of course, I knew you would say angry citizens. And if poverty were truly tackled in Nigeria, the country would become, can you complete the sentence?
The proper giant of Africa.
Yes,
interest.
proper giant of Africa. Of course, Nigeria is the most populous nation, and if things are not well, it attracts international attention in a proper form as well.
And that's why we are talking about it under the Baobab. Now, conditions in the conflict-hit northeast are dire, and the United Nations is also can only aim to deliver about $516 million to provide life-saving aid to 2.5 million people this year, down from 3.6, right?
Yes,
3.6 in 2025, which was already half of previous year's support,
Yes.
It's reducing.
Yes, Mimi, you've emphasized that these are not just numbers. These are not statistics. These are lives. We're talking about lives of Nigerians. Children, little children. We're talking about 3 million who risk facing malnutrition. And what worries is that, the government itself cannot deal with this to avert this, looming crisis.
And for those who are watching this conversation, if you've gotten to this point, it means that you're very interested. Let us know how you feel as a Nigerian. Are you hungry? What is being done in your area to some sort of, solve that problem that you want to see solved in your community? Do you feel like the minister has said what he is doing? Is the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs doing enough to alleviate poverty in Nigeria and provide food for everyone? I asked the minister himself,
Yes,
to get some sort of concrete assurances, to tell Nigerians, to tell our viewers what his administration will be doing by the end of the term of his mandate, his tenure. Let us hear what he told us.
Well, in the next years, we expect that with the robust arrangement we are having right now and the both national and subnational coordination we have developed to have an effective humanitarian intervention, even though we are challenged with constraint of funding, but we have promised to look at inward and mobilize resources domestically. For instance, I will cite an example of our homegrown school feeding program. In Kaduna State, we have a Sangaya School in Jere, where we are partnering with AMA Foundation. And a lot of things is being done there. We started with that school with about 800 students. But because of the introduction of the private-public partnership, the number of students has escalated to almost more 1,800, almost doubling the initial number we have started with. And I believe that with effective implementation of the programs and policies that we have developed after our council meeting, and with cooperation of the subnational level, Nigerians should expect from us an effective humanitarian intervention, proactive responses, and also accountability and transparency in terms of the affairs we are executing in the country.
Yeah, that sounds promising, but I'm sure it cannot be convincing enough to Nigerians who are already facing, the pangs of hunger. And hunger is not just about food.
Right. It's about systems, whether institutions can respond faster to growing crisis, especially growing hunger crisis.
Yes, and Nigeria faces real structural challenges. We're talking about insecurity, issues of, climate change, the population surge, and the UN now saying that they're not able to, meet the growing demands of Nigeria. Then it poses, a very worrisome concern.
Right, that aspect of climate change is very important. I remember when we were younger, because we used to farm our own food ourselves and feed ourselves. We would get corn from the farm, cocoa yams from the farm, cassava from the farm. But because of climate change, a lot of things changed. And when things are changing, the question is, what are the governments doing to assist, us, the citizens?
Yes.
That is the question that we were talking about today. Accountability, which means acknowledging some of these challenges and also questioning those who are in the position of power, what they are doing to assist their citizens.
That's on point, Mimi. It means measurable impact. As projections rise and funding tightens, the question becomes urgent. Can Nigeria's humanitarian system move from emergency response to
lasting resilience?
Yes. And beyond Nigeria, this conversation speaks to African governments everywhere about transparency, trust, and delivery.
These are some of the honest conversations that we have under the Baobab. And if you are interested in conversations like this, You have a place where you can always watch our videos Under the Baobab. We upload Under the Baobab every Friday of the week on YouTube.
Yes,
George?
DW Africa, that is our YouTube page name.
And also join us on Spotify, Apple Podcast. As we continue to ask the hardest questions, hold those in power accountable, and make complex issues personal. Until next time.
My name is Jojo Kachi.
And I am Mimi Mefoneo. Bye.